So, Reid and I were just listening to Brene Brown talking about shame, and I thought there was a really interesting tidbit that I wanted to share and talk about with you guys. This is Reid Mahalko from ReidAboutSex.com.
Cathy from the IntimacyDojo.com.
And Brene Brown is amazing. If you haven't listened to her material,
check out her TED Talks and things like that. Read her books.
Yeah, so we were driving, I picked him up for our work weekend, and we're listening to Worthiness, Men and Women and Worthiness, it's a CD. And she was talking about how shame, when people are ashamed, they won't talk about it. And I thought that was a really important, in our society, we tend to shame people to try to get them to change behavior or to be better people. And she was saying if someone does something they feel guilty about, if they feel like they did something wrong, they will often go home and talk to, like, if this little kid felt like the teacher scolded her, and this is the example she used. If the little kid felt guilty, like, I did something wrong.
I cheated on my homework.
Right. And the teacher was really, in the example she used, the teacher being really shamed, like really over the top. And little kids or people that are like, wow, that was really over the top. They'll go home and talk to their parents and say, hey, Mrs. Smith was really mean to me, and I know I didn't do this right, but she was like, they'll talk about the problem. Whereas when if a little girl is felt shamed, like she's a bad person, then she would never talk about it. Like she would never tell her mother that someone had been really mean to her or get solace or comfort. So I thought it was a really important, because there's so much shame in our society, and I love the work you do on reducing shame around sexuality and relationships and authenticity. So you do really great work. And I just thought that was such a powerful way to look at, because we don't want people to lose their voice. We don't want people to be unable to talk about the issues that are facing them and get help, because we're never going to change if we're locked out in shame, if we're frozen. Whereas if we shame people and teach them to go to shame, teach them that they're bad as people,
then you show them for good.
Yeah, and I see a lot of times in relationships, romantic relationships and with children, where there's a lot of shaming going back and forth. And if people want to have an open, loving, not necessarily open,
and the shaming back and forth, just to make a distinction, doesn't have to be coming from other people. It's how you shame yourself. And the idea that guilt means you did something wrong, shame means you are wrong. Like there's something wrong with you. And I mean, having listened to her talk, I'm like, oh yeah, it is a lot. It's easier to admit that you fucked up than admit that you're fucked up. And so, if this is useful for you all, noticing that about yourself, and then noticing that if you have people in your life that aren't coming forth and talking about stuff, is it that they feel ashamed, and can you create a space for them where you recognize, you're not a bad person. Like if you're feeling ashamed about this, then I get the shame piece, but you realize that you're not evil, you're not bad.
Yeah, letting people know and creating space where people can share. One of the ways she said to defeat shame was to expose it to the light, basically talk about it.
Intentional vulnerability is a powerful, powerful thing. I talk about my shame stuff all the time, and people are like, "You have shame?" And I'm like, not only do I have shame, I track it for a living like a game hunter. And that for me is fun. I'm weird like that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling ashamed. I'm going to walk towards it and start talking to the people around me about what I'm feeling, which for me has been really, really powerful and kind of takes the power out of the shame. It still feels horrible, but now I geek out on it and it doesn't ruin me. It doesn't silence me all the time. I'm human. I don't always speak up. But on a good day, I speak up, and then I'm normalizing for my friends around me that it's okay to feel ashamed and to talk about it. And then they often tell me that I am a good person, but then they start telling me when things are bothering them, and I get to reinforce that they're good people. And so now we're always talking about stuff, and that gets easier and easier over time. Yeah.
So if you're interested in having really clear communication and open, sharing between people, notice if you have any shaming. I was brought up in a family that shamed a lot. So I still catch myself every once in a while. And if there's things you can do to help people share and get out of shame, you'll create more powerful relationships.
There you go. What do you think? What do you think about shame and guilt and things like that? Comments, leave them below.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to subscribe to my social media, it's right there. And please subscribe to this channel there. If you'd like to see more goofy Reid and Cathy, there's more videos there.
See them. Why are they there?